Hi guys, I'm sitting down again. I think it's the first time I've done a video sitting down in a long time. I just cannot be bothered to stand right now. So did 2C-B again, like 2 nights ago. What day is it today? Monday. Yeah, 2 nights ago. And it was good. We did about probably not 0.25, that would be a lot. 0.025. About 0.025, and it's always hard to know exactly what you're having with 2C-B because it's so difficult to weigh up on the scales. Is it 0.0025? I don't know. Yeah, because I had to weigh out 0.09 and then split that into 4 in water volumetrically. So that would be, I don't know, basically 25 mg. Yeah, 25 mg. So a small amount. In 2C-B terms, I guess that's like a kind of fairly standard dose. And it was all right, but we had like a lot of stuff to do, a lot of faff. The apartment wasn't very tidy, bit tired, dog needed to go out, had to do various things. So it was kind of, I don't know, like a bit of a faff to do it. And we started tripping. We were watching this guy, Racer, who I think I've mentioned in previous videos, who we watch a lot of his videos. He's a guy I went to school with, and we watch a lot of his videos. He's a very strange, very eccentric man. And a lot of his videos from like around 2017 to about like 2022, they've gone off the boil a bit recently, to be honest, but for that period his videos are like just the funniest thing ever made. It takes a while to get into, like you have to sort of get to know him as a character to enjoy the videos, but it's kind of a tradition. Like if we're tripping, we usually watch some Racer videos, which people think is really weird, but honestly it's addictive. Like they're so funny, they're just so funny. There's times watching his videos where we just like, it's painful, like we laugh so hard it hurts, like it truly hurts. And it's very reliable. There's so many of them that are funny, and it just like kind of always gets us. So we watched some of those at the beginning, and there's one where he has a caffeine overdose, where he's taking this caffeine drink in a powder, and you're meant to have like I think a small scoop of it, and he just takes shitloads of it, and he has like a caffeine overdose, and he goes all pale and he's like shaking and stuff. And there was another one I can't remember, but we were watching a really funny one, and so that was good. But the whole time I find if I'm ever tripping, I've never had a trip where I wasn't anxious. Like I've never had that. I've never had one where I just felt good the whole time. I often have where by the end I feel good, like on shrooms, and in the past when I used to do acid, I would often be very stressed out for the first half, and then the rest of the trip, after I'd like confronted it or whatever, the rest of the trip would be good. You know, it's like something like grabs you really hard and it's squeezing you, and then it kind of lets go, and everything kind of relaxes. And usually that's how it is, although I find on 2C-B I'm just like kind of low level anxious throughout all of it. I think part of it is associations from past trips, and also just a lot of stuff in my head and a lot of things that just kind of are like worrying, and then just association with like past bad trips. I guess it just kind of sticks in your memory, and I think in your sort of muscle memory. So whenever I start tripping and I feel the psychedelic effects, my body is like, right, time to be stressed now, time to feel kind of afraid or have a sense of impending doom or of bad feelings about yourself. And so I kind of always have that, even when I'm having fun. Underneath that, I'm always a bit like, bleh. And there's no shortage of stuff that I can turn over in my head to worry about, to be honest. There's like quite a lot of things. In day-to-day life, I feel mostly fine. I feel like I'm very lucky and everything, and I feel good. But if I want to go down a like very bad rabbit hole of worry or shame, there's a lot of stuff. And so I'm always just prepped for it every time, and I'm trying to deal with it. I'm trying to say, like, this is a waste of time. It's not productive. It's not actually making you be a better person or improve your life. It's just unproductive, sort of like senseless discomfort. And so I had a fair bit of that, and I kind of just like kind of accept that I'll always have that, and that I can't get rid of that. And I don't think that's true, but I think it will take a long time, you know, and I hope in the next trip I can not have that feeling so much. And I think even just by saying it out loud like I am now and just thinking about it, I think I can probably make some headway with it. I hope so. So I had that, and then we were just hanging out, laughing at these videos, and both feeling like quite surprised at how hard we were tripping, I guess. But that's like every trip, isn't it, really? You're always like, oh shit, I'm tripping really hard. And that's especially during the peak, and then actually it's not, because you think it's going to keep going and keep increasing, and then a lot of the time what happens is you think, oh my god, I'm tripping really hard, and then it doesn't really progress, and you get more used to it, and then actually it becomes quite manageable. And with 2C-B, it's always manageable. I never, as much as I'm always like low level stressed on it, I never freak out on it. It's never like really bad at all. So there was that, but then we realised we didn't have anything to eat, and we didn't have anything prepared, and Tara had like planned to make this big pasta meal, which obviously you don't want to cook when you're on it. And then we had like various other things to do, and there weren't any clean dishes, and we were really hungry, and there was no food apart from the ingredients for this meal. So we had to like chop vegetables and clean the chopping boards and clean all the dishes, and the sink was piled up with dishes, and you know, got visuals and everything, doing all these household chores. And then the kitchen table was filthy. We had to clean the table to get ready. We're not very clean people, to be honest. We sort of realised this while we were tripping and looking at the floors, and they're just like filthy, and there's dog hair everywhere. Bit disgusting. Not terrible, but not great, you know. And so we were cleaning everything and thinking, this is fucked up. Like, yeah, it made the Om Racer videos a bit funnier, but now we're having to do all these chores, and what the fuck was the point of this? You know, like, why are we all we've done is taken something that's made it really difficult to do chores and made it really stressful to cook. And at that point I was thinking, what is the point of doing this stuff, you know? And then it hit me, well, most people would do this at a festival or on a night out or at like a party, you know, with a group of friends, not in a sort of like domestic environment where they have to do dishes and like cook pasta. And those things could be fun if you apply yourself to it mentally in the right way. I understand, like, you know, but to us at the time, it just felt like we were peaking and like trying to do all this stuff, and it was, you know, not very fun. And so that happened, and at the same time, I forgot about this part. I like never really get ill, and I remember in a previous video, if you've seen any of my other videos on 2C-B, I mentioned in a previous one when we ate all this spicy pork before doing it. I made this like really spicy pork, and it was just a very heavy, very spicy meal before tripping, which was a terrible idea. And I don't know why. I don't know why I did that, you know, and it made the night really uncomfortable because 2C-B can like kind of give you a bad stomach. And when we had all this spicy pork in us, it was just super uncomfortable the whole night. It was all like bloated and like feeling sick. And I kept thinking, why did I make spicy pork, This trip 2 days ago, the night before, I defrosted this sausage that had been in the freezer for ages, and I bought it when it was expiring. I only buy like beef and pork if it's on the last day, so they're going to throw it out in the supermarket and it's not going to get bought, or it's not really, I feel it's not really affecting the supply and demand, because I don't really like to contribute to the demand for pork and beef, because I don't agree with it really ethically. But sometimes if I see, all right, this sausage is in the reduced section, I'll just buy it. Like the other day I got 5 packets of cheese from there, and they were going to just either go to waste or go home to one of the staff who would have just as easily eaten something else. So anyway, I had this sausage, and that's why I'm always eating like old meat, and yeah, I cooked this sausage the night before. I made a really nice like sausage bean thing, and I was farting a lot after I ate it, and I thought it was just because of the beans, and it was quite spicy as well. It was really nice, like a spicy sausage bean casserole. But anyway, then the next day, like I was still farting a lot, and I was like, man, this is ridiculous. This is like degrading, And because it's the summer, we always have the fan on in bed, and the fan can't go at the bottom of the bed because we need a walkway for the dog, so it goes off to the side. So the fan kind of goes past me and into Tara, and if I fart, like it kind of gets blown into her face directly, and for some reason it sort of stays. It's very weird. You'd think the fan would cause the smell to like circulate around the room, but it doesn't. It just gets sort of trapped in this kind of area around her face, and like I think it's funny, I think it's funny to do this, but she gets like very angry, like she doesn't find it funny at all. And women of a certain age typically have a very strong sense of smell. I was speaking to a friend about this because he was saying his girlfriend's always complaining about smells, and Tara is always complaining about smells, and it really annoys me because she'll be like, what's that smell? And like going crazy and being like, there's something in the house that stinks, and I'm like, fucking shut up, like sit down, I want to watch TV. And she's going crazy about the smells, and it's because I think it's something biological to do with, I don't know what it's to do with, reproduction or something, I don't know, but women, I think like women in like their 20s, around that age, have a super heightened sense of smell. I think sometimes it's like 10 times stronger or something. So anyway, if I do that, if I'm eating loads of beans and like expired sausages and farting into the fan, maybe it's not funny. To me it seems very funny, and then to her it's like, a source of real anger, like genuine anger without a hint of irony, like she really is angry. And so it's gotten to the point now I'm kind of afraid to do what I feel is my right to just do, and she can be like, light-heartedly annoyed. It's gotten to a point where I think I actually can't really do this now because the reaction is so intense. It's like a sort of it's like the way like Sir Alex Ferguson might like kind of deter people from certain actions, from engaging in certain behaviours. You just think like, oh fuck, I won't do that again. No, I don't want the bollocking. And anyway, yeah, so that was happening, and then I was like, okay, this is clearly a bit more than just because I ate some beans. And so right around the time we were preparing to start the trip, because we were going to start about 5, at about 4, I was realising I was actually ill. I had food poisoning, mild food poisoning, because I went for like 3 shits in a row, and not nice ones, you've been for a shit, and then 20 minutes later you're like, oh god, I need a shit again, and then after that you go for another shit, and it's like, what am I even shitting out now? And this is just like my body's trying to get rid of something, And so that was going on while I was tripping. I was having these like horrible shits, and I thought, god, great timing, isn't it? I haven't done 2C-B for like months, like a really long time, and I get the shits an hour before I'm due to begin. That seems a bit ridiculous, especially after the last time I did it I had the spicy pork incident. So yeah, a bit of a recurring theme, eating spicy pork beforehand, and it's sort of semi-ruining the trip. So I think the first part of the trip, yeah, it was all, I was all fucking ill and shit. Anyway, yeah, so then we did that and we got the food ready and it was nice. It was good, but it's a bit intense to eat while you're tripping, and we were sort of unsure of what to do. And then we had we've got this new routine lately, this new routine we've fallen into. It started where we would get cakes from the bakery at the weekend. We're trying not to eat desserts in the week. We've gotten very addicted to desserts for like the last 6 months or so. I'd say 8 months, the last kind of 8 or 9 months, we've been very addicted to desserts. And there was a period where we were really addicted to Apex Legends, and we would play Apex Legends and we would have these chocolate pastries. They were like chocolate croissants, but like mini ones. And in one bag, I think there was like 1,300 calories or something, and we would share a bag of these every night. It was a lot of sugar, and it became joyless. You're eating the same food every night, it's the same sweets, and it just became routine. Like we play Apex Legends and we eat these, and you're not even really enjoying them because you're like waiting in the lobby for the game to start eating these things, and it was very bad. And so then we quit Apex Legends, and we've a couple of times tried to quit desserts, and we keep going back to the desserts, man. I don't know why. It's there's just so many nice cakes and stuff, and I think because for years we didn't eat a lot of desserts, and there's just so many different, like there's not a lot of variety in the food here, like in the savoury food in Spain. And not a lot of good snacks, not a lot of good crisps, not a lot of like a very poor selection of snacks, to be honest, in general. But in every country, there's always like good cakes and puddings and stuff, So we have a bit of a problem with the cakes, with the desserts. And recently we found a bakery that we go to, and we go to this bakery, and it's a very mixed bag, this bakery. It's interesting. The first time we went there, I got a chocolate pistachio cake, and I got a huge slice. It was like, we both got it actually. We each got a slice, and it was huge. It was massive. And we got them home, and we were like, this is too much, to be honest. Like we were thinking, this is actually too much. And we were watching The Room, our favourite film. And I think I've seen it now probably like 20 times, honestly, and it's still funny, and it gets funnier sometimes. Like the more you watch it, certain bits just become funnier. And we were watching The Room and having this cake, and because normally if I have a dessert, like I'll eat it in one go, and it was such a big slice of cake. I remember The Room was on, and I was eating this cake, and I had this realization, like, this is so big, I should save half of it for later, which I would never normally do. It was that big of a slice, and I think this gave me this like intoxicating feeling of power, where I was like, this slice is so big that I can easily save some for later and still feel completely satiated. Now, if anything, I've already had too much, It's like a very nice cake, but it's very sweet. And so I saved it, and I went and sat on the sofa for a bit, and I had this comfort knowing that there was this half slice of cake behind me on the table, and I could go back at any moment, which at that moment came like, probably 2 minutes after that. I sat on the sofa for a little cake break, just watched The Room. And then I went back and I finished it, and it was really nice. And I think ever since we've just been trying to recreate that experience, So we keep going to this bakery, and we made the mistake of telling them that they gave us really big portions, which was a big mistake. I didn't feel we had so much power. I didn't feel like, they were going to listen to us and they were going to really take seriously what we were saying. I thought they'd just go, oh, great, thanks. But they immediately started giving smaller portions, not just to us, to everyone, because we see the portions they give other people. But it's like, really? That's all it took was for us to say the portions were big, and now you've changed everything, and it's a shame. It's still a good deal. The portions are okay still, but I'm very frustrated, that we did this. We sort of ruined it. Anyway, we've been going there every weekend, and we'd say, oh, we'll just do it on like Friday and Saturday. Then it becomes Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then sometimes like a sort of wean off small dessert on Monday or whatever. It's just pathetic, really. And this place is a very mixed bag. There was some of the cakes are really good. A couple of times they've sold us some old cakes, man. Some old cakes. Oof. They obviously don't like wasting food. There's one cake that's been in there. We haven't had it, but it's been in there since we started going in there weeks ago. And they've had a cake for weeks, like weeks, and it looks disgusting. Like, not because it's old, it just looks disgusting anyway. It looks like a really weird cake. And they've had it in there for weeks. And I don't know if it was there before we started going there, for how long it was there for. It's crazy. I had a cheesecake from there a while ago, and I should have asked how long it had been there. But I got this cheesecake, and it was fucking disgusting, like so old. And the cheesecake, the fruit sort of jam topping had just become it had sort of solidified into a slice, like a slice of like an insole of a shoe. It was all connected, you know, instead of being like a sauce, it had just congealed into you could peel it off like a layer of film, you know, like when a soup gets and like the cake itself was just awful. I still ate the whole thing as well. It's just pathetic, you know, but I did. And it was I convinced Tara to swap. She had the chocolate pistachio cake, and I was like, give me some of that. You want to try this cheesecake? And she was like, okay. And then she had some when we'd already swapped, and I quickly ate the last bit of chocolate pistachio cake, and she was like, this cheesecake's fucked up. And I was like, yeah. And then I'd already finished the chocolate pistachio cake. And it's just a very mixed bag. It's a very mixed bag, this place. And a couple of other times there's been some weird cakes from there. Some very weird. They're very liberal in how they do things. They're very, you know, I like them. They're nice people, but strange. Some of the cakes are phenomenal, and some are just really weird and terrible and ancient. So anyway, we're taking a bit of a break from there. We bought a cake from the supermarket the other day. So we had this red velvet cake from the supermarket. This is while we were tripping back to the trip 2 days ago, and we were halfway through this movie. This movie called The Last Vampire on Earth, because basically it got to a point we were watching The Room every weekend, and sometimes we would watch it 2 days in a row, and it was getting to a point it was a bit, as of many things I've mentioned in this video, a bit pathetic, you know. And we were like, we kind of have to. I was okay to continue watching it, but I was in the back of my mind, I was like, this is really weird. And Tara was like, we have to stop watching The Room. We've watched it, like, you know, every weekend. So we tried to discover other terrible movies, and we found this one called Born into Mafia, which you can see on YouTube. It's very funny. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. It's not as good as The Room, like, or as bad. Well, it is. It's worse than The Room. I mean, in objective terms, you know, it's a worse movie, but it's not as enjoyably bad. But it's very funny. And then we were watching the director's next film called The Last Vampire on Earth, which is just a shameless, dreadful Twilight ripoff. It's awful. It's absolutely awful. And we'd watched the first half of that, so we finished that while we were tripping, and it was quite an experience to watch that tripping, and we had our cake, and it was good. And then throughout all of this, just the film is funny because the guy is like, he's meant to be like an Edward Cullen type. And he doesn't look like Robert Pattinson. That's all I'll say. He's not Robert Pattinson. And I feel for him watching it. Like, he put in quite a dignified performance, as dignified as he could within what the role allowed him to be. You know, he tried, and you could see he was a bit humiliated by the whole experience, because he's meant to be like a sexy vampire, and he's not. And yeah, I'm not sure I'll watch it again. It's quite funny. Some of it is pretty funny. There's some funny scenes in it, but it's terrible. Yeah, it's absolutely terrible. There's a line when you're watching a movie that's like, you know, that's funny because it's bad. There's a line some of them cross where they get so bad that it's like, it's hard to watch. And we were watching this one the other night called Partners from 2009. We're halfway through. We're going to watch the other half like this weekend maybe. It is so bad. It is so unbelievably terrible that it is hard to watch. It's actually hard to watch. Like, normally if they're the right level of bad, they're really easy to watch, you know, because you just make fun of it. But this one, Partners, is like atrociously bad. It's a disgracefully bad film. And there's all these really long drawn out scenes, and they clearly didn't have enough footage, so they're trying to make the film longer. And they're just filming these ridiculously unnecessarily long shots. Like the intro is just them driving, and it plays the whole credits, like everyone who's involved with the film, and it just keeps cutting back to them like driving, and there's this like hip hop beat playing, and I swear it's like 5 minutes. It's just like ridiculous. Anyway, so we were doing that, and just hanging out, and in the end I felt somehow I didn't spend a great deal of time like looking inwardly and processing all these feelings and stuff, but I still, by the end of the trip, I had the feeling I get at the end of lots of trips where I think, I'm glad I did it, and I feel it's put me more in touch with my emotions, and I feel like in some way it was a good experience, even if I didn't enjoy all of it. It's brought me more into the present moment and heightened my general awareness, and over the next couple of days made me sort of think about things more, made me more thoughtful, made me think a bit more about maybe I'm unhappy about this thing or that thing, and maybe I need to sort this out and all of this. And it's good to feel, sometimes to feel negative emotions or to feel fear. I worry sometimes it's not very healthy, you know, to physically healthy to be stressed a lot. That's one thing that I don't mind. I can tolerate being uncomfortable. I don't mind. I just don't want it to shorten my life, you know, because I like living and I don't want to have a shorter life because of stress. But apart from that, I don't really mind it. I'm very used to it, and I'm very able to handle it, and very like okay with handling, you know, stress. It's just the physical health part that I don't really like, because I take physical health seriously. I think from a mental perspective, stress can be quite good for you, but I don't know. So from that point of view, yeah, the trips always feel, just by making you feel something other than bored, I think they're positive. So it felt kind of positive in that way, and we discussed something we'd had an argument about, and it feels more vivid. The feelings can feel quite vivid, and it feels like, you know, when you have other arguments, like we had an argument today about something, and we're both like blabbering on and going back and forth, and it feels like you're not really listening to each other. You're both doing this performance, and neither of you is engaged in the other one's performance. You're both engaged in your own performance. And when they're speaking, you're just thinking, yeah, you fucking shut up and wait for me to say what I'm going to say. And then you say what you're going to say, and you're like, yeah. And then they start speaking, and you're just kind of like, you know, and it's not real communication, especially when it becomes a heightened conversation and as ego gets involved, and, you know. But when you're tripping, it's a bit different. It feels more of a real engaged interaction where you're actually listening to each other, and you're actually looking at each other, and you're actually taking each other's feelings more seriously. And that's good as well. So we're going to do it again this weekend, because you can do it, like, apparently you can do it 2 days in a row and you just don't really have a tolerance. So that's pretty good, because it's already like measured up, because for volumetric dosing you have to put it in water and shit. So we're just going to do it again. And like prepare food beforehand. Something easy. Make sure that the apartment's ready, because that stuff was stupid. I felt ridiculous, man. It's like I've just taken something that makes like chores difficult, you know, and now I'm doing a bunch of chores. So yeah. I remembered a thing as well. So that was the trip anyway. It's good overall. Yeah, I like 2C-B. I think the parts of it that are not good. I was going to say the thing I remembered, by the way. I'm not just like, you know, losing my mind. I just remembered I had to conclude the 2C-B experience. It's just late here, by the way. I'm not like I'm not stoned or anything. I haven't smoked weed for years now, but I'm just very tired. We went on a long dog walk, and yeah, the parts of 2C-B that are bad, to be honest, I think are just me. Like, they're my problem. I think in general it's an amazing substance, and I think it's one of the substances that I think it should be legal. And I think it's one of like a collection of different things where if they made enough of these things legal that occupied certain spaces, there would be very little market for illegal drugs anymore, like weed, obviously. But I think there should be regulations, perhaps, to begin with at least, about what kind of weed can and can't be sold. I think most of these things, once people get more used to them, they can like open up deregulate them a bit, but yeah, weed obviously I think just kind of needs to be legal. It's just a bit silly, even if like I personally think it can be quite harmful and have a negative impact on people's lives. It doesn't always, of course. It can be really positive, but yeah, I still think it should be legal anyway, regardless of the broad spectrum of effect it can have on people's lives. I think some of the benzofurans like 5-MAPB, if they made that in a form where it was mixed with other things and it was in pills and you could only buy, like, for example, 1 pill per person, and you had to, like, you know, show your ID, you get the pill, and 1 person per whatever X amount of time can buy 1, and 2C-B as well. But again, all of these things, I don't think you could sell them if you didn't want, you know, widespread issues caused by it and then all this culpability on like the state or whatever. But if you sold it like as a powder, as a pure powder, people would just take way too much. They wouldn't weigh it properly. They would try and eye weigh it and end up having like the maddest trips ever. So it would have to be sold again in like a pill form and where it's, you know, regulated and everything. Again, like initially, because people just aren't used to this stuff. In the UK in particular, people are just mental. So if you said, okay, don't take all of this, someone would just be like, and just like take the whole bag of 2C-B and have like, you know, the most insane trip ever. But I think it has great potential for being legal, properly legalized. I think it's a very safe substance generally if used with any level of precaution. Like, I think it's very safe. Psychologically, pretty easy to tolerate, more so than weed, easier on the mind than weed, I would say. And fun and yeah, not seemingly addictive or anything. So I think it would be a great one to legalize along with a few others, but obviously we're decades away from that, anything like that sensible happening, I think, unfortunately. If ever, God forbid we lived in a world where policy like made sense, you know, like government policy, and made sense and reflected the will and just the intellect of the people in general. It's just never feels like that will never happen. It feels like we can see the most like logical things in the world, and we're in this perpetual state. No matter what country you're from, no matter what generation you are, what background you're from, everyone feels unrepresented and like hates their politicians. Almost everyone, like probably 98% of the world, just thinks politics is a joke and they don't represent people and they don't ever do anything that constitutes, you know, real change and progress, and if they do, it's painfully slow. So it's a shame. So I don't know if we'll ever get there with drugs in general. I think we might always just have this ridiculous carry on where or they'll legalize stuff that's like awful, the kind of shit that you can already get from your doctor in America that's like horribly addictive and has all these side effects, or they'll come with some nasty new fucking synthetic bullshit that's like horrible. So I've remembered a thing. I'm going to pause this video and restart because sometimes it starts to lag. So yeah, I remembered a weird story the other day, and I think when I did my GHB video on like all my various GHB experiences that I could remember, I think I forgot this one. Maybe I didn't, but I don't think so. It was a mad experience. We used to take a lot of GHB. We used to take it all the time, and it's that's one I don't think should be legal. I think a lot of people would die. Like, I think it's really easy to die from and to take too much of, and just to lose control of yourself. And not only do you lose awareness of what's going on, but you get like really horny and super like overconfident and poof. Yeah, no, if that was widely used, I think that would be terrible. And these days I don't take anything that sort of has the potential to lead you to be like a degenerate, you know. I just don't really want to. And I find if you start taking stuff like GHB, you start wanting other stuff like that, and you start thinking, oh, maybe some speed, maybe some coke, maybe let's do this, maybe this or that, and it just becomes a circle of kind of doing all these different sort of dopamine stimulating drugs. And beyond the pleasure they give you while you're taking them, which often is considerable, they don't really do anything for you. If anything, the opposite. I'm parts of it I miss. I miss feeling a bit. I miss the feeling of freedom. We were talking about it the other night. Like, so we used to take all this different stuff. I was never sober back then. Like before I started doing this channel, like a year before I put my first videos on here, around that period, whenever that was, I was like kind of around COVID, that kind of period, the COVID and the sort of 2 years that followed it, I was never sober, like never. I was always at a minimum on like kratom or phenibut or GHB or weed or drinking, and when I had like a good buzz on, there was like a feeling of freedom, of like taking something and then being like, let's just fucking go out and just like walk around and do shit, go find some food or buy some fucking like fizzy drinks or whatever, you know, walk to some shop across town, and there weren't many people around because of COVID, taking stuff and just like something I enjoy a lot about, like taking something before leaving the house. Like, used to do that a lot with coke back in the day. We were going to go out somewhere, you plan like a little sort of mission somewhere, like, you know, we need to get a lighter or something, we need to go to a shop across town before it closes, let's have a line for the road, and stuff like that was really fun. Like, have a line for the road and then go there, and you as you're leaving the house and it's like cold, and you're starting to feel the buzz as you're leaving, as you're walking through town, and you're just chatting shit, and you don't care what anyone else is doing in town. You're in your own little world, and you feel so free, and you feel like the night, not to be too, you know, try and be too poetic about it, but you sort of feel like the night belongs to you, you know, and you feel just like I don't know, hard to describe it, but you're in your own world, and you are like, you're the center of it, rather than just being a piece in the world overall. It feels like everything kind of, I don't know, that was always a really good feeling. And just walking around like high out of our minds. And in particular, I really liked doing that on speed or coke. Coke mixed with alcohol, or speed mixed with like GHB or something. But also on GHB, that was like a weeknight thing. So weekends, we might be having a big session to, like, you know, coke or speed or something. But on weeknights, we would consider GHB just like a casual weeknight activity. And we would take it and we would eat a lot of pastries. And again, but actually back then we were eating quite a lot of cakes. And we'd go to like Lidl or Aldi or a bakery or something and buy loads of weird foods and like eat loads of crisps and drink energy drinks, and then go home and wait for our stomachs to be empty so we could take more GHB, and then go out again. And it was just all like, you know, all this weird shit. But anyway, sometimes you take it and you'd be walking around and you just feel, again, yeah, walking through town, and like, but like, I would get so horny on it as well, though. It was bad, like walking through town and there's like hot women everywhere, especially in Valencia, to be honest. Like, it'd be just, and it was hard to be like polite, you know. And it's just a bit gross to be in such a hedonistic state, I guess. So whilst I really enjoy I really enjoyed and kind of missed the free spiritedness of it, and the feeling of knowing exactly what you wanted to do and what you were doing. Like now, if I'm doing something, if we're like watching a TV show, I'm sort of very like, I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, am I enjoying this show, and what am I going to do after this? And most of my enjoyment comes from like thinking about what I'm going to do next, or achieving things, or obtaining things, or being outside. Like, that's always great still, like doing things in nature, doing healthy activities, doing exercise. It does feel good, but it's hard to get like a really, really good buzz without drugs, you know. And I miss that part of just like, fuck yes, yeah, this is what I'm doing now, and this is what I want to be doing, and this is what I'm going to carry on doing for the night, and everything is perfect right now. That's a cool feeling to be able to access. But once you've accessed it, it's hard. Like recently I thought, for example, about trying Mephedrone again, because people apparently get Mephedrone. And I started reading. I was like, let me read some stuff on Reddit about people who take Mephedrone. And the more I read, I was like, I shouldn't do this. I just shouldn't do it because it's too nice. It just feels too nice. And it's not good to feel that good, honestly. Like, it's not good. Overall, it's not. On balance, it's not, because you think you have the really good times and then you have some pretty terrible times following it. And you can convince yourself, oh, that's the same as everything being kind of mediocre all the time. But it's not. It's worse. Like, on balance, it's worse, definitely. I would say now my life is a lot more like boring, but it is better overall. There's a lot less suffering. There's a lot less confusion. It's a lot more peaceful. And the happiness or contentedness is much more consistent. It's smaller, you know, like it's smaller things throughout the day. But it's less kind of like contaminated and corrupted by things going on around it, and just little, you know, just like enjoying the dog, like seeing the dog and smiling and being happy, and like, or seeing Tara and just being happy to see each other around the house and happy to do things together, and lots of little moments throughout the day of just genuine I don't know the word, but just pure, you know, sort of emotions and happiness. And it's not super intense. It's not like a really powerful buzz, obviously, but it's much more consistent, and there's a lot less moments of feeling terrible and feeling sort of disconnected from your true self. That said, yeah, man, there's some good sides to all of that stuff. But it's just, the thing, honestly, I think what puts me off when I think about doing stuff like that again, it's not actually the bad parts that put me off, it's the good parts. It's knowing how dangerous it is to feel that good. That's what puts me off. I tell myself, like, outwardly, I say when I think about coke, because we often talk about coke and we think, yeah, but remember the come downs, and you remember what it's like to come down, and you think, oh yeah, that isn't the part that puts me off though, because I can handle that. It's actually remembering how good it felt at times and how much you can kind of lose yourself in how good that feels. That's the part that scares me, because you lose yourself, you know, because this feeling is like, feels more powerful than the importance of being who you are and being with your true self, because it feels so good. And then you're sort of lost in a sea of it, you know, and it took me years to get out of, and not that I was trying, but I was in it for years. And it's just too good to have. A human being, I don't think, should feel that good, to be honest. Not in that way, not in such a hedonistic way. Like, it depends on the substance, but who am I to, you know, I'm not trying to fucking, you know, some people can handle that stuff and it's fine and it can be really good. I shouldn't speak on behalf of everyone, but I know that for me, I don't think it's right to feel that good, or at least I couldn't handle it, and I probably still wouldn't be able to. Yes, we were walking around taking GHB, and I remember it would get to a point I would take too much, and I'd feel it in my ears. I'd get this weird thing happening to my ears. I don't know if anyone else has this, where like I couldn't hear, and my ears would be like, and it was like really weird, and I had to try and position my jaw in a certain way so my ears stopped making this noise. And I'd be like really lightheaded and like really like full from all the food we eat, and like really horny, and just like walking around town like, you know, like a dog goes out and it's just like you really like, you know, up for it. And I'd be like that, like strutting around town like a weirdo, and fucking staring at all the women and thinking about all the food I was going to eat, and like fucking chocolate bars in my pocket and stuff, and just chatting absolute shit. And we were out, and And then we were going to Co-op, and Co-op was closing at 10. This was in Bristol. Co-op was closing at 10. And we really wanted some food. There was these, I forgot about these. There were these Co-op salt and vinegar crisps. Fuck, they were nice. Oh man, if you can get them, if you're in England, there's like a Co-op like finest range, and they do these salt and vinegar crisps. Sometimes they're okay, and sometimes they have like loads of the flavouring on them, and they're really strong and incredible. They're like the Co-op sort of finest fancy salt and vinegar crisps or whatever. And we really wanted a packet of those and some like energy drinks or whatever. We didn't have anything at the flat, so we were hurrying to Co-op. And Tara's pretty slow sometimes, and I was like really being like, come on, let's fucking go. We're getting there, and I'm seeing it's like 5 minutes to go, maybe less, and sometimes they start to close early, and they won't let you in if you're. And I was thinking, we're not going to make it, and really hurrying. And then Tara just was like, I'm trying, and she was like stumbling and shit, and she was really high. And I was like, please, like, if we can just get this journey, we'll get in there, we'll get the stuff, and then we can be as slow as you like. And she just really couldn't. Like, I was really trying to like force her to hurry up, and she just couldn't. So we went past a kebab shop, and I was like, look, just wait here by the kebab shop. A Co-op was it was literally just down the road. It was like at normal speed, probably a minute or less. So I was like, wait here by the kebab shop. And this all happened very quickly, and I was like, I'm going to run to Co-op, because I was trying to make her run, and she was like, I literally cannot run. I'll be sick if I run. So I was like, cool. I said, stand here in the doorway. The kebab shop was open, and I said, stand here in the door and just read this menu, and just don't do anything else. Just read this menu and just focus on this. I'll be so quick. I ran down to Co-op, and I think I missed it. I don't think I got anything from Co-op. I think I went there, and they were closing. They wouldn't let me in. So I came back up to the kebab shop up the hill. It was a short walk up the hill, and Tara was completely gone. And I was like, we were quite young at the time, We were like, like 21 or something. And I was like, Tara's fucking gone. Like, where has she gone? And she was gone. And the weird thing was quite an open area, and I had only been like just down the road. I hadn't been long at all. It was like an open area, and I just couldn't see her anywhere, and I could see all the way up the hill, and she wasn't up that way. And there were these little side alleys, and I was thinking, is she in the alley? And I was calling out to her, shouting at them. I went into the kebab shop, and they were like, no. And I was looking around for her everywhere, and I started going down these alleys, and immediately I remember just like, I didn't have any like, normally like, or sometimes when bad things are happening, you have this kind of weird optimism, like inbuilt optimism, where you're like, no, this must be a mistake. I didn't have that. I had the opposite. I immediately was like, I'm never going to see her again. She's gone. I'm never going to see her again. And I'll never know what happened to her. And I remember just dread, like pure dread in the pit of my stomach. I was like, oh my God. And I was running down these alleys, and I was like on the verge of tears and like screaming out for her. I was going, Tara, and like I couldn't understand how she could have gotten so far away that I couldn't see her in such a short time. And I went up the hill, I went down the hill, I was literally running around everywhere shouting her name, and just once I'd covered a certain amount of ground, I was like, that's it. Like, if I haven't found her now, that's it. I thought someone had taken her. I thought she was already inebriated, and I think she's probably been like trafficked, and I'll never see her again. That was my immediate conclusion. I was quite young as well, not very level-headed, but at the same time, it was crazy. She was gone. And I thought, yeah, she's been, someone's come past in a van and seen her and seen how out of it she was and like taken her or something, which that doesn't really happen like in even in countries where women get trafficked a lot. It's not really like that. Like, so people are scared to go to those countries that have lots of human trafficking. Like Romania has a reputation for women being trafficked, but it doesn't really work like that. It's very rare that they just like take someone, because that attracts so much attention. It's usually actually the, in quotes, boyfriend of the girl who like manipulates them. The most sinister business in the world. I cannot believe someone could do that to another human being, but they they pretend to be their boyfriend, and they, you know, get them hooked on drugs, and they tell them, oh, I want you to fucking shag this guy or whatever. It's horrible. So anyway, it's quite rare actually in reality that someone is in most parts of the world just taken and, you know, whatever. But I thought that had happened, and I was just running everywhere screaming. And there weren't a lot of people out. It wasn't that late. I guess it was a weeknight. There weren't a lot of people out. There were these students like looking at me like, what the fuck's this guy? They were chilling by the fountain and like laughing about stuff, and they seemed like fairly innocent, you know, sort of mixed gender group of students, and they were just watching me going, Tara, and like running around and like holding my head and shit. And I saw a police car while I was running around near this fountain, and because I asked these, I think maybe I asked the students, I can't remember. It's all a bit blurry. And I saw the police car, and it was parked up like in the square, so it didn't look like there was anyone in it, but there was a policeman in it. And I went over and I was like, please, like, help me, my girlfriend's lost. And whenever this happens, you'll find, whenever you're in a situation like this as a man, they immediately think you've killed your girlfriend. This has happened to me twice. It depends what you look like, to be honest. Apparently I look like the kind of guy who would kill his girlfriend. And I also I had another time where she was really hammered. She went to a work party and she got really fucking drunk, and I had to come and pick her up, and she was being horrible and also was really drunk. And the whole way home, like, everyone was looking at me like, oh, this guy's gonna like rape her. And I was like, no, actually, I've just have unfortunately been tasked with bringing her home while she's in this state. Yeah, one group of people, like, were like, they wouldn't leave. I had to sit with her to sober up. This is the time when she was drunk. I had to sit with her to sober up. I remember there's a group of these guys and girls, and like, it was in Bristol, and people are a bit like, you know, whatever. They like to imagine the kind of people that go to uni in Bristol and hang out there. They like to imagine that they're the kind of people that would save someone from being raped. You know, so it's very much in their cultural DNA to jump to these conclusions. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with it. It's good that people are mindful. I didn't actually really take offence to it at all, because I thought, like, it's a good thing that they care about that and that they're watching out for their fellow citizens. I like to think they would do it in a way that didn't just fit within their sort of, you know, ideological framework of their sort of demographic, and they probably would, hopefully. But anyway, they were watching and like they wouldn't leave, and I had to sit with her for a bit because she like was like too drunk and she was vomiting and shit, and I was stone sober. So to them, they were like, this is really weird because he's with this really drunk girl and he's sober. But she was so drunk I couldn't even get her. I had to be like, Tara, can you tell them I know you? And she was like, I was like, can you tell them a bit more? Like, is there some way you can prove that I know you? Because these people think I'm, you know, doing something untoward. And I don't remember how I convinced them in the end, but I did. And I think by the end they felt sorry for me. But yeah, anyway, and a couple times, yeah, like I've had to, like, Tara's like gone missing. And both times the police have immediately been like, right, this guy's killed her, and he's now come to us as his cover story. Yeah, needless to say, I hadn't. She's fine. She's in the next room. And again, like, kind of part of me would get offended, and then I'd think, like, it's probably what I would think in that situation. And I don't actually think there's anything that wrong with stereotyping, to be honest. Like, for police stereotyping and kind of stereotyping in general, full stop, like, I think it has a really bad rap. And I think when it comes to like safety and crime and stuff, I think it's completely fine to stereotype people, and it's a bit ridiculous to pretend it's not. Like, if you've got a little kid, for example, and your kid gets lost, you're obviously going to teach them, like, go over to a group of women and children. Don't go to some like weird man who's by himself, you know. That's stereotyping. That's prejudice. It's discrimination, but it's fine. It's just if you're a woman and you're alone at night and you go into an alleyway and you see like a woman and a 6-year-old, you're gonna be like, cool, I'm safe. If you see like me, you're gonna be like, okay, maybe not, you know. Maybe something bad's gonna happen. It's not, and there are other versions of that that are a bit more controversial that I won't get into on YouTube, but it's completely fine to do that. And it's just practical, and there's a limit. Obviously, you should have some level of like taste about it, you know. If the police had gone, no, we're not going to help you look for her, we know that you did it, look at you, you're like a fucking creep, I would have been like, okay, this is too much now, this is stereotyping has gone too far. But to have the initial suspicion, yeah, I think it's fine. So anyway, he was immediately kind of looking at me like, right, she's gone missing, when did she go missing? And then I think he started to see how upset I was, and started to think, okay, and so he got me in the car, but the whole time he was talking to me in that way, kind of like, okay, like we're driving around, and he's like, so you last saw her near the kebab shop? And I was like, yeah, and get him to drive around looking for her. And we were driving around for so long, and I'm in the car, and then I think the more time I was in the car for, the more he could see me freaking out, and could see that I was very upset and was genuinely looking for her. And I was looking, you know, out of the window and everything the whole time. And the whole journey, I'm like, she's gone. She's just gone. If we haven't found her now, and she's not in town, and she's not, you know, like our place was really far away. And so, yeah, I thought there's no way, you know, she's disappeared. And we kept driving. We were driving around for so long, and then I heard he got a call in on his thing, and he was saying something as some complaint about some girl on the radio from his colleague, and I was like half listening to it, and then he was like, yeah, she's just fucking thrown up everywhere, and he was like, oh, and then I was just listening to this and didn't think anything of it, and then he went, I think my colleagues just found your girlfriend. And I was like, what? And he was like, yep, she's thrown up all over his car. And I was like, no, really? I couldn't, I thought, this is some other girl. He's picked up some Bristol student, I'll say. I don't know what I can say anymore. I wish I could be a bit more liberal with my language on this channel. And I was thinking, that's what's happened. Like, you know, this can't be her. I just think they think it's her because whoever they found is too drunk to communicate who she is. So I wasn't getting my hopes up, but I was kind of like, okay, please. And then he said, all right, we're going to go drive and meet them now. And we drove. Actually, he said, where's your address? We'll take you back to your place. And then I could hear they were talking more on the radio, and it was starting to become clear, okay, I think this is her. And and he drove me home, and the other cop drove her to there, and I saw her, and I remember I was just like so relieved to see her. I couldn't believe it. I've never felt so I just felt so relieved to see her. Like it was overwhelming, and said thanks to them and everything, and sorry. And then we just went in and got inside, and I was just like there's no point in me going into it, but we were very I was very I just didn't want to leave her. So it was very I don't know how to describe it in a way that's not sort of embarrassing and sappy, but and too personal basically. But it was an overwhelming feeling of like love and relief and gratitude. I was just so happy that she was okay, and so relieved. And she said that she didn't remember anything that happened after the kebab shop. All she remembered was being suddenly way on this other side of town. It was like far away. She was really far away, the place where she was initially. And she was there, and she remembers being there and crying. She was like really crying. And some guy was like, are you okay? And she was like, no, I'm lost or whatever. And then he tried to help her. He was like, can I help you and get you somewhere? And she like ran away from him, and then she started running, and then she doesn't remember anything that happened. And then she remembers being in the police car, and then she threw up all over the police car. Apparently it was everywhere. He had to like scrub the seats and everything. And like when she got out, you know, he was like cleaning the seats and it was covered in vomit. I think he got her out mid-journey to like get some of it out, you know. She said that there was sick like everywhere. And she doesn't have a clue what happened. And she somehow got, like, she was really far away. The place where she ended up, I don't have a clue how she got there on foot while I was at Co-op. It was such a short time. Yeah, it was nuts, man. It was nuts. And just crazy how quickly things can happen, and sort of eye-opening for me, I guess, because I can sort of I used to just assume we were this, we're taking this stuff together and I'm fine and she's fine, and after that I was like, okay, it's not really like how it works. But not just in a not even really in a gender way, but like even if you look at, like, for example, the Jay Slater thing that happened recently, right? Like when I was younger, I didn't think, for example, leaving your mates to go off somewhere, I didn't think that was that big of a deal. That happened to me. I was often went off on my own and my friends didn't follow me. Actually, some quite bad things happened to me on a few of those occasions. I didn't really think anything of it. I didn't really think, oh, they fucking ditched me, or because I sort of thought, well, I chose to go off and they're not really responsible for me. And sometimes I guess they would, and I wouldn't like necessarily be like, we have to find so and so, and we can't let this person go off on their own. But after the Jay Slater thing, I remember a lot of people saying, never leave your mates alone on a night out. Never let your mate go off if they're like drunk or whatever. Never let that happen. And they're correct. That is true. You shouldn't. Like, that is absolutely true. It used to just be a thing with girls. Like we say, a group of girls, like, and girls are pretty good with that generally. Like, they don't generally leave each other to go off. You very rarely hear about that. But with everyone, in general, like it's not a good idea if you're like on substances and stuff to leave one another, on your own. So I probably did again at some point, but it definitely to some degree, sort of taught me that lesson. But man, it was a huge relief to see her again. You don't realize until something like that happens. You don't realize, like, you take things for granted so much, and moments like that remind you to be grateful. I lost the dog once, and I was just like, so, it's the exact same feeling. I thought, oh my god, oh no, I couldn't even process it. It was such an unbearable thought. And to find her again, I just got the dog, and I was like, oh man, it was like, I'm just so happy to have you. I'm just so happy that you're okay. I'm so happy that you're not missing. And it was the same feeling. You forget how much you love people, or how lucky you are to have them, or pets. You just forget easily and take them for granted. And sometimes serious things happening or just certain events can prompt you to remember that. And it's a good thing in a way. It would be better if we could remember it more in general, and just realize, like, how easily we can not, how easily someone you love, who you see every day, and you're kind of just bored of it and you forget and you don't really think about it and you take them for granted, like how easily they could have died the last time they got in a car, or the last time they got really drunk, they could have slipped over, or how many little things nearly happened to them, and where you would suddenly realize what an important part of your life they are, but you just take it for granted. And I think it's one of the most difficult things as a human, to try not to take everything for granted, and to try and actually appreciate the things that you have, particularly the people that you have around you. It's hard to do, but it's really valuable when you do it, when you take the time to actually really think about it and really think about how much you love these people. It can add a lot of depth to a relationship and shake you out of your sort of, your like sort of monotony and lack of gratitude. So yeah, that's all. Hopefully 2C-B next weekend will be more of a more fun, less chores, hopefully. I'll update you guys. So yeah, that's all. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.